So I just woke up and I got a delivery notice from Alexa saying I have a package and got some new float sensors. They're from Anderson? No idea. 6 pieces for 12 bucks. Shipped. That's not bad at all. Let's do a little unboxing, unpackaging. So as you can see inside of the bag, you have all your float sensors. I should have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 float sensors. These are a lot bigger and heftier looking than the other ones I had, so hopefully these last a little bit longer. And since these have a longer throw, I think the last float sensors I have only move about that much. So since these move more, it's going to completely change my water line, so I'm going to have to move my water line to compensate for the difference. So float sensors, and also in the package you have your rubber washers and your nuts. And I'll install one to show you how they work. So if you don't know anything about float sensors, once this is installed in your sump or your aquarium, if you have an all-in-one, when the water line is where it should be, your float sensor will look like this. And when your water evaporates, it'll slowly start to come down like this. And once it gets to about here, it triggers this ATO valve through these 2 cables. And that'll send a signal to your automatic top off to put more water in the tank. Now most of these valves are different, so if you need to adjust the height on this part, not this part, you can actually install a whole bunch of these rubber washers. You can put these on this pole and actually bump your valve down if you need to. So to install these, if you want to use a washer, put your washer on like so, and then grab your nut, and then screw that on. So I'm going to take my old ATO sensors off my aquarium and install these 2, and I'll show you now. And when I have my switches ready, I'll cut the ends off with a pair of snips, and then just strip both ends. And then go ahead and just twist those up. And now these are ready to be installed in the tank. So now we're inside of the sump area, and the very first thing I did, I went into my Apex and turned off my sump low and my sump high alarms. And what that means is when I disconnect these 2 cables, my automatic top off will automatically start dumping a whole bunch of water in here. So I turn that off just in case that doesn't happen, and also I turn it off so I don't get a whole bunch of alarms going off every 5 seconds. So the next thing I did is I labeled these 2 cables. This cable here marked with black electrical tape is my low water valve turn on. So when the water gets low, these 2 wires send a signal to my Apex telling my ATO to turn on. And these 2 wires send a signal to my Apex to tell the ATO to turn off because the sump water is too high. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut these 2 cables and strip 2 brand new ends, because being in the sump cabinet, corrosion happens sometimes. It didn't happen in this case, but sometimes it does happen. So I'm going to cut these cables and strip them back. Now I have my cables stripped, as you can see here. Next thing I need to do is take a Phillips head screwdriver, loosen up those 2 screws, and pull that piece out. And here's the piece removed. All I did was just snip the ends and then take it right out of the tank. So now what I have to do is loosen up these 2 screws, remove these 2 sensors, and install the new ones. And there we are, uninstalled, ready for the new sensors to be installed. I want my low valve to sit on the right and the high valve to sit on the left. Twist my wires together and then feed them through that hole. And then it needs to come out of that hole, as you can see there. And I just pull it through. I actually forgot to install the nut, so I got to do that all over again. So once I come through the hole, put the nut on first. It's been a while since I've done this, almost a year. And then send it through again. then push it up. And then once it's tightened down, you can see now this valve is actually sitting lower than the other valve's going to be. Now I started feeding the other sensor, but what I have to do now is before this is all the way installed, I want to just make sure that I have the right line, and this is my low water line. So what I'm going to do is the temporary, put a piece of electrical tape around that, and now I know when I install this, it's the low water line. It just saves some time, and so when I do install this, I know that this is the low water line. And there we are. And now once everything's installed, you can see that this side sits a little bit lower than the other side, and this will trigger the alarm first to fill up the tank with water. And now this is ready to be reinstalled back into the sump. And with everything that goes in my aquarium, I gave it a quick rinse. And I have it all mounted back in place. And now I just got to connect my 2 wires to the network cable. So I just finished wiring up. Everything is done. So what I'm going to do now is tuck this wire into this track and clean everything up. And now it's finished. Looks pretty good to me. I know it's a little hard to see, but right there are the 2 valves in the background. And as you can see, the water is too high and they're both triggering. This is my water line mark. So since these valves are bigger than the other valves, what I need to do is actually remove water out of the aquarium, wait till that valve trips my apex, and then I'll have to change this water line. So as you can see, I removed about that much water, and the water line is now about 1/2 inch from the old water line. But as you can see now, the valves are down where they should be, so I'm gonna give this about 24 hours and make any connections that I need to, and go from there. So as you can see here, the low water valve and the high water valve were too close together. So what I had to do is remove those 2 rubber grommets and put in one of those plastic nuts so it drops the low water valve lower than the high water valve. And while I was at it, I also created this high water, normal water, and low water line for my tank sitter so it's easily readable. Oh boy, here we go again. And so it happened once again. I cleaned the pump 1.5 weeks ago, and it's already clogged up. So what I did is I took the Ecotech pump out, put in the Mag 2, wired everything up. In this bucket is the Ecotech pump, and about a mixture of 50% water, 50% vinegar. I completely took the pump apart and then put a circulation pump in here. And this is pretty much what I have to do on a bi-weekly basis. After about a week of soaking in the 50% water, 50% vinegar bath, and after scrubbing with the toothbrush, this is currently what the pump looks like. It's almost brand new. I scrubbed as much as I could, and here are all the additional pieces that have been soaking and scrubbed as best as I can. Here are all the rubber gaskets that I need, and all the ceramic pieces. What I'm going to do is take a small file and start getting off anything that doesn't belong on there. And here, as you can see, the bucket where the vinegar bath was, I completely removed all that, scrubbed the bucket, and then added fresh hot water. And I'm going to put all the pieces in here and let all the pieces soak for about another day. Okay, it is the next day and I switched out the water and it is hot. So what I'm going to do now is start reassembling this pump. Is I grab this rubber grommet, and then I grab this ceramic piece, and this ceramic piece goes inside this rubber grommet like so. And then when that's snugly fit inside the rubber grommet, I grab the main pump assembly, get all the water out, and then I take this piece with the rounded edge down and push that in. And it does need to be pushed in all the way to the back of this pump. And once that's pushed in all the way, grab this part of the pump with the impeller on the outside, and I put that in. Now there are these markings on the outside, and they need to line up with those holes. So this male needs to go into that female, like so. And I spin it and it feels free, so I know I'm good to go from here. And then I grab my red rubber grommet, and there is this little groove right here. That red grommet goes inside of that groove. Just like so. The next thing that needs to be installed is the turbine. And the way this fits on, you have to line these holes up. The hole there and the hole there. Now you can move this around. This is the base of the pump. You do have options to mount the turbine, but I want to put the base of the pump on the bottom. So what I do is I line up my holes, push in, and then I grab a screw and put it in the hole. And with my Allen wrench, I screw it down. And then I grab a nut, put it in that hole, hold the nut with one finger, and screw down. Now don't tighten too much. Keep repeating the same process. And then when everything is semi-tight, I start at the top, tighten that on the bottom, tighten that on the right, tighten that on the left, and then tighten that. And then I just go through everything one more time. Apply a little bit of pressure, just make sure everything's tight. Doesn't have to be super tight, just very snug. And once that is installed, I grab my base and then just slide that right on, and it locks into place. And there it is. And also don't forget, there is one rubber grommet that goes on the outlet of the pump before you put your piping on. So don't forget that rubber grommet. But I'm gonna leave that off because I'm not connecting these two yet. What I'm going to do next is put them both back in the water, like so. And I've just temporarily plugged the pump in, and look at that. Looks like it's working great now. So I'll give this another 24 hours, and then once the 24 hours is done, I will reinstall that back into the aquarium. And it's been 24 hours, and in those 24 hours, I have dumped the water out of this bucket twice now. This is fresh water. I believe I got all the vinegar off, all the surfaces of the pump and the tube. So what I'm going to do is let this cook for a little bit. And in my bucket, I have 10 gallons of freshly made salt water. So I'm going to do a 10-gallon water change. And while I'm at it replacing this pump for the Ecotech, I'm going to scrape all the insides of the glass and empty all of that out while I do the water change. Here's a little before and after. This is before. And that was just about all I can get out during this water change. I'll try to get the rest out during the next water change. But it looks a lot cleaner to me. And the Ecotech pump is reinstalled. And if you wanted to know what a water change looks like on my tank, this is currently what it looks like. Once the overflow is full, it goes down the overflow into the sump. All right, another successful water change down for the record books. Pump is now back installed where it needs to be. Everything is tight. It's running perfectly. It's running absolutely beautifully right now. I give this about 3 weeks before this goes offline again. Today is February the 3rd, 4:14 p.m. and I'll keep everyone updated on how the pump is doing. Got about 3 weeks on this before it clogs up again, but we'll see. Cross my fingers.